Jai Shri Krishna. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 1, verse number 28, 29 and 30, explanation along with background. We all know that Lord Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita in order to bring Arjuna out of the grief and deep sorrow and confusion. As Arjuna had declared that he would not participate in the war. Had Arjuna stuck to his decision of not participating in the great battle of Mahabharata, we cannot say what would have been the result and what would have been the other consequences. But as Lord Krishna delivered this supreme knowledge due to this reason, and thus we all get benefited from it. In the verse number 10, we understood that Duryodhana had fear in his mind due to his distrust on the commander-in-chief Bhishma Pitamaha. He knew it very well that Bhishma Pitamaha by his heart was on the Pandava's side, but due to his pledge, he was fighting from the Kaurava's side. And after this, he started giving instructions to other warriors of his army that you give a cover to Bhishma Pitamaha, who was the commander-in-chief, because if commander-in-chief gets defeated or gets killed, then they would lose the battle. So he started giving instructions that you please protect Bhishma Pitamaha. And upon hearing this, Bhishma Pitamaha blew his shank very loudly, and which was in fact the declaration of the war, that the war is going to begin. And after Bhishma Pitamaha played his shank loudly, all the other musical instruments like dhol, mridang, etc. were played, which were in fact the confirmation of the beginning of the war. Once this side, Kaurava's side, gave the confirmation of the beginning of the war by playing the musical instruments and their shank, then on the Pandava side, Lord Krishna, who was participating in the battle as a driver, a sarathi of Arjuna, then Lord Krishna played his shank called Panchajanya, after which Arjuna played his shank called Devadatta. Then Bhim played his shank called Pondra. Yudhishthir played his shank called Ananta Vijaya. Nakul played his shank called Sughosh, and then Sahadev played his shank called Manipushpak. So thus the declaration of the beginning of the war was confirmed from both the sides. But here comes the twist. Arjuna, whose sarathi was Lord Krishna, he requested Lord Krishna that you please take me to the middle of battlefield so that I could see very clearly who are my opponents, who are the enemies who have come as enemies to fight with me. So upon Arjuna's request, Lord Krishna took him to the middle of the battlefield, but he took him in a manner so that he could clearly see Bhishma Pitama as well as Guru Dronacharya. And then, upon seeing all the people on Kaurava's side, amongst which were Arjuna's uncles, maternal uncles as well as paternal uncles, his father-in-laws, because he had done so many marriages, and of course he saw Bhishma Pitama and Guru Dronacharya and Guru Kripacharya, etc. And then he expressed his deep sorrow and grief and confusion in these words, which he expressed in verse number 28, 29 and 30. He said, Trishtamevam swajanam Krishna yuyutsam samupasthitam Sidantimam gatrani mukham cha parishusyati Vepathuscha sharire me rom harshat jayate Gandivam stransate hastattvakchev paridahyate Nacha shaknomyavasthantu Brahmativa cha me manaha. Arjuna said, O Lord Krishna, Trishtamevam swajanam yuyutsam samupastitam, means upon seeing these people who are my own. Swajan means my own people, and they have come to fight with us. Yuyutsam means they have come with the intention to fight. They have come well prepared. And he said, Sidanti mam gatrani mukham cha parishusyati. Arjuna said, my body is getting cold. Even my mouth is getting dried. And why was this happening to Arjuna? Because not that he feared of his own life, he knew that he was a great warrior, because in the war of Virat, he had defeated the whole army single-handedly, and these Kauravas were his opponents. So he did not fear about himself. He was fearing for their life, that once the battle starts, they would get killed by him. So he was explaining his body condition, his mental condition to Lord Krishna, that upon seeing his own people who have gathered to fight with them, his body is getting cold, his mouth is getting dried, and then he said, not only this, Vepathuscha sharire me. He said, my whole body is shivering. And Rom harshat jayate means my hair strands have stood up with fear. So when somebody is afraid of something, the hair strands stand up. So this was happening to Arjuna. And then he said, not only that, Gandivam stransate, I am not able to hold the bow, his own bow, because he used to use the bow and arrow. He was expert in that. But he said, due to this fear, I am not able to hold my bow on my shoulder. And not only that, Gandivam stransate hastattvakchev paridahite. He said, the skin of my whole body is getting burnt. न च शक्नोम्यवस्थान्तु, I am not able to stand. Bhramativa cha me manaha, I am totally confused. Arjuna told about all his inner feelings to his dearest and closest friend, whom he trusted blindly, 100%. And Arjuna didn't know that Krishna was God. He knew that he was his dear friend who stood by him all the time. So whatever is his problem, his difficulty, he can tell it to Krishna without trying to hide anything. So therefore, due to this reason, he expressed his feelings about his mental and physical condition to Krishna. And in the next verses, what he would say to Krishna, we shall discuss it in the next video. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Krishna.